I never expected my biggest commission to come from the very law firm that had been my family's pride for 3 generations. Then again, I never expected a lot of things about my life to turn out the way they did. My name is Alexandra Walker, and this is the story of how I turned my family's greatest disappointment into their most expensive revelation. I still remember the exact moment my father's disapproval of my art became something more than just passing comments. I was 17, standing in our living room, surrounded by my portfolio pieces for art school applications. Each canvas represented hundreds of hours of work, dreams captured in oil and acrylic. "What is this?" Dad's voice cut through the quiet afternoon. He stood in the doorway, his lawyer's briefcase still in hand, staring at my artwork with the same expression he usually reserved for opposing counsel's weak arguments. "My portfolio," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "for the art school applications we talked about." He set his briefcase down with deliberate slowness. "No, we discussed you applying to law school, following the family tradition. Walker and Associates isn't going to run itself when I retire." I gestured to a portrait I'd done of our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. The piece had won a state competition, capturing not just her features, but the wisdom and warmth in her eyes. "But look at what I can do. This isn't just a hobby anymore, Dad. I'm good at this." "Good." He picked up one of my acceptance letters. "The Art Institute of Chicago? Do you know what their graduates earn compared to Harvard Law? This isn't just about you anymore, Alexandra. This is about legacy." My mother appeared in the doorway then, her social smile firmly in place. "Perhaps we should discuss this over dinner? I'd made your favorite, dear." She always did this, trying to smooth over the cracks in our family with food and forced pleasantries. "There's nothing to discuss," Dad said, dropping the acceptance letter onto my carefully arranged portfolio. "No daughter of mine is going to waste her life playing with paints when she could be continuing the Walker legacy." End of discussion. But it wasn't the end. Not really. It was just the beginning of a very long war. I did what any desperate 18-year-old would do. I applied for student loans and scholarships behind my parents' backs. When the acceptance package came from the Art Institute with a partial scholarship, I packed my bags in the middle of the night. The note I left was simple. "I have to follow my own path. I'm sorry it's not the one you chose for me." Dad's response came via text. "Don't expect any support from us. Art won't pay bills." Those words would echo in my head for years to come, through countless ramen dinners and shared apartments with 3 other struggling artists, through gallery rejections and late-night shifts at coffee shops. Through every moment I doubted myself, but never quite enough to quit. What my family didn't know, what they never bothered to find out, was that I wasn't just painting. I was innovating. While they imagined me doodling in a sketchbook, I was pioneering new techniques in digital art integration with traditional media. While they assumed I was failing, I was building a reputation in the high-end portrait world for creating pieces that captured not just appearances, but essences. My breakthrough came 3 years after graduation, when a tech billionaire commissioned me to paint his wife. The portrait incorporated augmented reality elements that revealed different aspects of the painting under specific lighting conditions. It made headlines in the art world. And suddenly, Alexandra Walker wasn't just another struggling artist. My rates went up, way up. The waiting list for commissions grew longer, but I kept my success quiet, working under my mother's maiden name, Kingston. Alexandra Kingston became known for portraits that told stories, that revealed hidden depths, that commanded prices that would have made my father's glass drop then too. I moved into a loft in Chicago's Gold Coast, but kept my parents' Christmas cards marked "Return to Sender." They'd made their choice. I'd made mine. Then came the email that would change everything. "Dear Miss Kingston, Walker and Associates is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. We're interested in commissioning a centerpiece portrait for our main conference room, featuring the firm's 3 generations of leadership. Your unique style would be perfect for capturing our legacy of innovation in legal services. Best regards, William Thorne, Chairman, Anniversary Committee." I stared at my screen for a long time, a smile slowly spreading across my face. My father's firm, my grandfather's legacy. They had no idea they were reaching out to the very person they told would never succeed. I accepted the commission immediately, quoting my highest rate yet, $500,000. The response came within hours. They accepted without negotiation. The next email contained the reference photos I'd need, including a recent one of my father. He looked older than I remembered, more gray at his temples, but his eyes still held that same stern determination I'd grown up with. I set up my largest canvas and began to work. This wouldn't just be a portrait. It would be my masterpiece. Every brush stroke would tell a story, not just of Walker and Associates, but of the daughter they'd written off. As I worked, I thought about the unveiling ceremony that would come, about the moment they'd realize who Alexander Kingston really was, about that glass freezing halfway to my father's lips. But first, I had to create something undeniable, something that would force them to see not just the artist I'd become, but the success they'd refused to believe in. I worked for months, pouring everything I had into the piece. Every technique I'd pioneered, every innovation I'd developed. The portrait would show 3 generations of Walkers, but embedded within it were layers of meaning only visible under specific conditions, a testament to the hidden depths in every legacy. My phone rang constantly with calls from my old number. Mom, Dad, even my brother Michael, who'd followed the approved path to law school. I let them all go to voicemail. They'd see me soon enough. The week before the unveiling, I received another email from William Thorne. "Miss Kingston, the partners are extremely excited about the unveiling ceremony. We've arranged for press coverage and invited all our major clients. I trust everything is on schedule. Best regards, William." I attached a photo of the finished piece, carefully angled to hide its secrets while showing enough to impress. "Right on schedule," I replied. "I look forward to presenting it personally at the ceremony." Then I looked at my calendar. 7 days until the unveiling. 7 days until I walked back into Walker and Associates, not as the disappointment who'd run away to art school, but as Alexander Kingston, the artist whose work they paid $500,000 to acquire. I smiled, thinking of all those family dinners where they'd pointedly discussed Michael's law school success while ignoring my existence, of all the returned Christmas cards and blocked phone numbers. "Art won't pay the bills," Dad had said. I glanced around my luxury loft, at the waiting list of commissions worth millions, at the portrait that would force them to finally see me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. Sometimes it's about forcing them to see the one they refuse to acknowledge. The unveiling ceremony was in 7 days, and I was ready to show them exactly what art could pay for. The week before the unveiling was a masterclass in self-control. I arrived in Chicago 3 days early to supervise the installation of my portrait. The familiar skyline brought back memories, not all of them pleasant. As my cab passed the towering glass building of Walker and Associates, I thought about the last time I'd been here, 10 years ago. "Miss, we're here," the driver said, pulling up to the service entrance. I checked my reflection in my phone. Smooth blonde hair now styled in an elegant bob, designer suit in place of the paint-splattered jeans my family would remember. Alexander Kingston, successful artist, looked nothing like the rebellious Alexander Walker they'd written off. William Thorne met me at the entrance, all corporate polish and practiced charm. "Ms. Kingston, we're thrilled to have you here personally overseeing the installation. I'd insist on handling all my major pieces personally," I replied, watching the careful movement of my crated portrait. "The lighting has to be exact for the special elements to work properly." "Special elements?" His eyebrows rose. I smiled. "You'll see at the unveiling. Is Mr. Walker available? I'd like to discuss the placement." "Richard? He's in court this morning. But his son Michael is here. He's handling most of the anniversary arrangements." My heart skipped. Michael, my perfect older brother who'd followed Dad's path without question. Who'd stopped returning my calls the day I left for art school. "That would be fine," I said, keeping my voice neutral. Minutes later, I heard familiar footsteps behind me. "Miss Kingston? I'm Michael Walker." I turned, face carefully composed. He looked older, of course. More like Dad than ever in his tailored suit and conservative tie. There was no recognition in his eyes as he extended his hand. "Please call me Alex," I said, watching for any flicker of awareness. Nothing. 10 years and a different last name were better than any disguise. "Alex, then. I've seen your previous work. Very impressive. Though I admit, I don't know much about art." "No." I couldn't resist. "Not even the basics? No frustrated artist siblings to educate you?" He stiffened slightly. "I had a sister who dabbled, but she chose a different path." "How unfortunate," I said, turning back to direct the installation crew. Family support can make all the difference in an artist's career. The portrait was carefully uncrated, still wrapped in protective covering. Michael tried to peek underneath, but I stopped him. "The full reveal is part of the presentation, Mr. Walker. Even the installation crew won't see it until it's properly lit." He frowned. "Dad's going to want to approve it before. Your father approved the commission sketches." I cut in smoothly. "The contract is quite clear about the unveiling terms. Unless there's a problem with my reputation?" "No, of course not," he backpedaled. "It's just, Dad can be particular." "So I've heard." I checked my phone. "If you'll excuse me, I need to supervise the lighting installation." The next 2 days were a dance of near misses and careful timing. I coordinated with the technical team to install the specialized lighting that would reveal the portrait's hidden layers. Every time I heard my father's voice in the hallway, I found a reason to be elsewhere. Then, the day before the unveiling, my mother appeared. I was checking the final lighting adjustments when I heard her familiar perfume before I saw her. "Oh, you must be Miss Kingston. I'm Margaret Walker." She looked exactly the same, perfectly coiffed hair, expertly applied makeup, the kind of elegant outfit that screamed old money without trying. Her smile was the same one she'd worn the day I left, when she'd said nothing to stop me or support me. "Mrs. Walker," I nodded, not quite meeting her eyes. "I was just finishing up here." I couldn't help but notice. She gestured to the covered portrait. "Will we get a preview?" Richard is quite excited about the commission, though he'd never admit it. "The unveiling is tomorrow," I said. "Everything has to be perfect." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You know, I had a daughter who was an artist, or wanted to be. I sometimes wonder if she succeeded. I finished, my heart pounding. Have you tried finding out? Richard forbade it, she sighed. But I keep hoping one day I'll see her name in a gallery somewhere. I almost told her then. Almost said, Mom, it's me. I made it. But I remembered all the times she'd stood silently by while Dad crushed my dreams. All the chances she'd had to reach out after I left. Perhaps she's closer than you think, I said instead, gathering my things. Excuse me, I have a meeting with the technical team. That night, in my hotel room, I looked at my phone. Dozens of missed calls from the family over the years. Countless unopened emails. One last chance to warn them, to soften the blow that was coming. I deleted them all. The morning of the unveiling dawned clear and bright. I arrived early, checking every detail one final time. The portrait was perfect. 3 generations of Walkers captured in oil and light, with layers of truth waiting to be revealed. The guest list read like a who's who of Chicago legal society. Every major firm would be represented. The press would be there. And in the front row, my family would watch as Alexander Kingston was revealed as the artist they dismissed. An hour before the ceremony, William Thorne found me in the conference room. Miss Kingston? A slight change of plans. Mr. Walker. Richard would like to meet with you privately before the unveiling. My breath caught. I don't think. He insists, William said apologetically. He's in his office now. I stood frozen for a moment, then straightened my spine. Fine. Let him see me first. Let him understand exactly what he'd thrown away. The walk to his office felt like walking through memory. How many times had I visited him here as a child, dreaming of the day I'd make him proud? The nameplates on the doors had changed, but his was the same. Richard Walker, managing partner. I knocked once, then opened the door. He stood at the window, exactly as I remembered. Tall, imposing, the very image of legal authority. He turned as I entered, and for the first time in 10 years, I looked my father in the eye. Miss Kingston, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for accepting our commission. I've heard remarkable things about your work. I shook his hand, feeling the familiar callus on his trigger finger from years of skeet shooting. He hadn't recognized me either. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Walker. Your firm's legacy deserves nothing less than my best work. Yes, legacy. He walked to his desk, picking up a familiar frame. My high school graduation photo. Legacy is everything in a family business. I hope the portrait reflects that. Oh, it will? I assured him. Every hidden detail, every layer of truth. It's all there. He frowned slightly at my tone. Hidden details? You'll see soon enough. I checked my watch. The unveiling is in 45 minutes. I should finish my preparations. Of course, he set the photo down. Just one thing. I noticed you sign your work with just A. Kingston. Any particular reason? I paused at the door. Sometimes, Mr. Walker, the names we choose matter more than the ones we're given. I left him puzzling over that, my heart racing. In less than an hour, everything would change. The portrait would be unveiled, and with it, every carefully constructed wall between Alexander Kingston and Alexandra Walker would crumble. The conference room was filling up as I made my final checks. I saw Michael in the front row, next to his wife, someone I'd never met. Mom sat beside them, nervously smoothing her skirt. Dad entered last, taking his place of honor. William Thorne approached the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Welcome to the unveiling of Walker and Associates' 50th anniversary portrait, commissioned from the renowned artist Alexander Kingston. I stood to the side, remote control in hand, waiting for my cue. One button would activate the special lighting. One button would reveal every hidden truth I'd painted into this piece. One button would show them exactly who Alexander Kingston really was. The moment of revelation was finally here. William Thorne's voice filled the packed conference room. And now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the artist herself, Alexander Kingston. The spotlight found me as I walked to the podium, aware of every eye in the room. My father sat in the front row, that familiar look of polite interest on his face. The same expression he'd worn at countless school art shows before dismissing my work. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," I began, my voice steady. "Art has a unique power to reveal truth. Not just what we see on the surface, but the layers beneath. The stories we tell, and the ones we hide." I pressed the first button on my remote. The lights dimmed, and a soft glow illuminated the covered portrait. This portrait uses a technique I developed called revelation lighting. Different spectrums reveal different layers of truth within the painting. What seems obvious at first glance might hide something deeper. My mother leaned forward, intrigued. Michael checked his phone. Dad maintained his professional smile. Before we unveil the portrait, I continued, "I'd like to share a story. A story about legacy, about family, and about the price of following your dreams." I saw my father's smile fade slightly. Good. 10 years ago, a young artist left home to pursue her passion. Her family, especially her father, told her she was throwing her life away. That art wouldn't pay the bills. That she was betraying her legacy. Dad's posture stiffened. Michael's phone lowered slowly. That artist spent years developing new techniques, pushing boundaries, making a name for herself. A name that wasn't the one she was born with, but one she chose. One that would command $500,000 for a single portrait. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Recognition flickered in her eyes. Today, that artist stands before you, hired by the very law firm that was supposed to be her destiny. Hired by the father who said she'd never succeed. I pressed the second button. The cover dropped from the portrait. Gasps filled the room. The painting was magnificent. 3 generations of Walker men captured in perfect detail. My grandfather, stern but proud. My father, commanding the center. Michael, representing the future. But as the specialized lights shifted, new layers emerged. Hidden in the brushstrokes were scenes from the firm's history, cases won and lost, moments of triumph and scandal, and woven throughout, almost invisible until the right light hit it. The signature, Alexander Walker, repeated in tiny, precise strokes. For those wondering, I said into the stunned silence, yes, Alexander Kingston is Alexander Walker, the daughter who chose art over law, the failure who now charges more for one portrait than a first-year associate makes in 3 years. Dad's glass of champagne froze halfway to his lips, the same way I'd imagined it would, the same way I'd painted it in one of the portrait's hidden layers. "Dad," I said, looking directly at him for the first time. "Art does pay the bills. Quite well, actually." The room erupted in murmurs. Camera flashes popped. My mother was crying silently. Michael looked like he'd been slapped. "The portrait you commissioned," I continued, pressing the final button, "shows more than just 3 generations of lawyers. Watch." The lighting shifted again, revealing the final layer. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, was a young girl sitting in my father's office, drawing while he worked. Me, at age 7, already knowing what I wanted to be. Legacy isn't just about following in someone's footsteps. Sometimes it's about blazing your own trail, about proving that success doesn't look the same for everyone. I stepped away from the podium. The portrait is yours, Walker, and Associates. Every layer, every truth, every secret. Consider it my contribution to the family legacy. The applause was thunderous, led by William Thorne, who clearly appreciated good theater. Reporters rushed forward with questions. Clients crowded around the portrait, marveling at the hidden details. Through it all, my father sat motionless, the champagne glass still suspended. Finally, he stood. The room quieted as he walked toward me. 10 years of silence stretched between us. "The girl in the portrait," he said hoarsely. "In my office. I remember that day. You let me sit and draw while you worked," I said. "It's one of my favorite memories." I was wrong. The words seemed to cost him physically. "About all of it. About you." "I know. The portrait, it's extraordinary. Like nothing I've ever seen." That was the point. He reached out, hesitated, then pulled me into a rough hug. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so damn sorry." Over his shoulder, I saw Mom approaching, tears streaming down her face. Michael stood awkwardly behind her, clutching his phone like a shield. "Perhaps," I said, stepping back from Dad's embrace, "we could discuss this over dinner. I know a place. The owner commissioned a piece from me last year. We won't need reservations." Dad laughed, a rough sound with tears at the edges. "I'd like that. All of us?" I looked at my family. Really looked at them. Mom's hopeful smile. Michael's uncertain fidgeting. Dad's proud eyes, finally seeing me clearly. "Yes," I said. "All of us. We have 10 years to talk about. And Dad?" "Yes?" "Bring your checkbook. I have a waiting list of clients, but I might be persuaded to bump family to the front of the line. For the right price, of course." His startled laugh was genuine this time. "Art really does pay the bills, doesn't it?" "Every single one," I smiled, "with plenty left over for paint." Later that night, sitting around a table with my family for the first time in a decade, I watched them study photos of my work on their phones. Mom couldn't stop touching my hand. Michael asked genuine questions about my techniques. Dad kept shaking his head in wonder. The portrait would hang in Walker and Associates' conference room, its hidden layers revealing new truths to anyone who knew how to look. But the real masterpiece wasn't on that wall. It was here, in this moment, in the restoration of what was broken, in the recognition that success isn't measured by following someone else's path, but by being brave enough to paint your own. I raised my glass. "To legacy," I said. "To art," Dad replied, his eyes shining. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing them exactly who you've become and giving them the chance to see it through new eyes. After all, every masterpiece deserves the right light to be seen in.